have you ever looked at other people's work, specifically in other mediums? So film, art, singing, dancing? No? You're missing a trick. So doing this for 13 years now, roughly, and in that time I started out a lot of the time just looking at other photographers' work which are obviously well known or went out by the magazines, you know, DIY photography or whatever. I'd have a look through and it would say there'd be like an insert from a photographer telling you to do or use this setting for this. And that was great. But in actual fact, there is far more to be seen and learnt from other mediums and people within those other mediums who have transitioned or at least done photography as a side hustle. So we've got things like actors, everyone from, you know, Brad Pitt, Ben Affleck, all the high profiles, to music and songwriters like Graham Nash, Bryan Adams, models like Tara Banks, Helena Christensen, Stanley Kubrick, who is obviously a film director and videographer. Is that the right term? Anyway, his work's really, really nice in actual fact. And a lot of them are, it's documentary photography, a lot of it's film based, some of it is digital, but Stanley Kubrick is film. Bryan Adams does quite a mixture of abstract with wet plate, but he also does a lot of high-end work with obviously some of the people he knows and stuff, so like the famous people. But there's like this really eclectic mix of BTS work, stuff which we don't really see, not BTS work in the context of they've actually got like a dedicated photographer, so it's just stuff like them, like in the changing rooms, you know, taking pictures of other cast members when they're just like chilling. And it's actually quite refreshing because obviously they're aware that the camera's on them and stuff, but it's obviously like their work colleague and stuff. It's not like the BTS guy, it's, you know, Jeff Bridges taking a shot of you sat there smoking a cigarette with like a full English on your lap whilst you're horizontal on a leather couch. And it's really cool and it's really of that time, and it just showcases something different. And again, it's like most of it's film, so it just looks insane, but it's actually quite interesting. It's not a big jump in the grand scale of things because they already are doing a creative job where, especially like actors, because obviously they're given a role, aren't they? They're like, you know, what's my motivation, what's my direction, where am I going with this? Let me see the script. Where's the light? Where's my key light? You know, they understand about fill-in shadows and, you know, all that. So it's really, really interesting just to see, like, from their perspective, what they're capturing. And it's just another avenue to research and look into. And I actually find it really interesting that it's, I suppose you wouldn't necessarily know about them. It's obviously only because they are famous and they're in the limelight and they've been, you know, seen with cameras or whatever. So it's just really interesting. But it's another aspect quite a few people miss, because we're just used to sort of looking at one dimension of photography in the sense that, oh, he shot this campaign, or there's that photographer who does like this sort of like model work, or there's this photographer who shoots watches and that's his niche. And that's great, and that's if you want to, you know, you're looking at high-end commercial work. But in actual fact, like, there's this whole other, you know, it's like street photography, that's just like such a big thing. Documentary photography, reportage, it's so big. And like, obviously, like the people which just do that day in, day out, I mean, there's just a monster amount of work which is just incredible. These other people which we see in day-to-day life, so like Ben Affleck, whether you like him or not, it's a different case, but again, his work is, I think it just gives you that other aspect because you only see him on the big screen. In actual fact, one of my favourites is Jeff Bridges, so I think he plays loads of cool characters anyway, and I'm sure there's people which don't like him, but I really like him. But if you look at his work, it just oozes class, and it just looks really cool. And obviously there is a lot of nostalgia there, and I think that we feel like we lose it in digital format, but in 20, 30 years, we're going to look back at that digital format and look at it with the same sort of rose tinted glasses, like, oh, you remember, you know, because it's just a snapshot in time. And it really reminds me of what they're shooting and stuff, of like, I think it's like what I'm seeing now. We're seeing this revival of like the old imagery of like rave scenes in the 90s. And it's a bit of a laughable time because you look at the tracksuits and the sort of things like Bermuda shorts were coming into fashion, shell suits, Reebok classics. And it's, you know, it's cringing, but, you know, just seeing that is like, that was a bee's knees back then. And that's what makes it interesting, because you'll, you know, just like a lot of old photography, it's interesting because you see the cars of that period, the fashion of that period. That's what makes the image. Landscape imagery, although that's really nice, if you look at it back in the day, unless you're showing a then and now, so you can see the difference, it's just a landscape in black and white or colour, you know, and it's nice, don't get me wrong, it's really good, but it's actually the imagery which sells better and is more sort of what pulls most people in, is where you've got context of people or things of that period, so you can sort of, you can note the time. But I'm going off track again. But getting back to like the sort of celebrities and the other people in these mediums, or, you know, there's lots of athletes as well. It's an absolute minefield of great work, which a lot of them do exhibitions and things, and all over the country. Jeff Bridges does all up and down America and whatever. So Google it. You can just Google like the, you know, what celebrities do photography, what sports people do photography, and a lot of them, the links are broke now and stuff, so they're not actually that good. But the main ones which are sort of still prevalent and actually do exhibitions, you can find some of the stuff where they did do exhibitions, or they had a news article, they've had like the imagery taken down, so you can sort of read the article but you won't be able to see any work because they don't really sort of publicise it anymore. But some of the bigger ones which do it on a regular basis, you can actually buy their photo books, and they're really, really worth getting. I've actually got to put an order in today to get some, and it's just really for my collection. I find that I don't necessarily read about the person, it's just, for me, it's just about the image. But it's another avenue, it's worth a look. And if you've got a spare, don't get me wrong, some of the books are silly money. If you've got a spare, you know, up to £50 or maybe more, if you want to buy a really nice one, invest it in that and think of it as an investment. Don't think, oh, I'm just buying a book, because there will be points which you can go back on. A lot of books I've got, I actually bookmark them, so I don't like label them, but I bookmark them in the context that if at any point I'm thinking about inspiration, I'll get a book and I've got seven or eight, you know, marks in there, I can quickly go to it and go, yeah, even if it's not to do with the subject I'm doing. But anyway, get buying some books.